I was having a discussion with my family members, right? They they were talking about how, you know, people can be so manipulative. And as we were having this discussion, I was actually trying to get them to understand that at the end of the day, it was a family discussion. I was trying to get them to understand that at the end of the day, manipulation, playing all these games, essentially is useless. And this is why it is that I say that at the end of the day, people want to be so smart. People like to think that they're so smart, but in actuality, they're really not. Factually, they're not. Because what is it that I say here on this channel a lot? At the end of the day, everybody is going to have to stop playing games. It's not optional, regardless of whether you want to or you don't. The reason why I'm saying that is because I'm a very good manipulator if I wanted to be. I study the art of manipulation. My name is Kareemspiritworks, and I've been a good manipulator for 4 or 5 years now from studying it. Does it mean that I actually put it into practice? No. I don't really use it. There's no need for me to use it. See, the reason why it is I'm saying that people have to stop manipulating and stop playing games, which is essentially the same thing, manipulation, is because Sun Tzu wrote The Art of War and Robert Greene wrote The Art of 48 Laws of Power. And what you have is you have a hodgepodge of people trying to manipulate, i.e., run game on everybody else. Now, see, this is where a lot of people get caught up from. Because when these people write these books, if they don't belong to some sort of group that's meant to intentionally put these books out here to get you messed up, because some of them do belong to some of these groups that do put certain information out where people who are not prepared for this type of information, who are not supposed to read and practice this type of information, they know that it will intentionally fall into the wrong hands because of people who don't know what it is that they're doing. They'll read it, put it into practice, and they'll ultimately cause their own destruction, and unfortunately the destruction of other people around them. For instance, it's like with the scenario with the Satanism thing. It's like with the scenario of the Luciferian thing. Satanism and Luciferianism has nothing to do with the worship of Satan. It has nothing to do with the worship of demons. The demons that most people are afraid of is the darker nature of the species. It represents your darker natures. But when you get people who take things to the extreme because they were already suffering from a problem in the first place, and you give them this information that they cannot decipher, they will delude themselves into thinking that it's necessary for them to do certain things when it's not really necessary at all. Same thing when it comes to playing games. I know how to manipulate, but I don't do it. And the reason why is because for a couple of reasons why. Number one, there's no need for me to do it. 99% of all people living on this planet, regardless of whether they know it or not, is being manipulated. That goes for everybody. Everybody. So if these groups of people who write these books don't belong to some sort of group, and they are sincerely by themselves, then you need to take into consideration that if that is the case, where these people do not necessarily belong to a particular group, that that intentionally puts this information out here to get you messed up on some stuff that you have no business reading and practicing, right? Then if they are sincere, you weren't meant to read it anyway. You weren't meant to practice it anyway. Because what most people won't tell you is these type of works like manipulation and things of this nature, or what it is that most people who are very advanced in this type of work will call the dark arts, aka these are all elements of being a dark magician. This is too easy. So with all of these people claiming to be such light magicians, light and bright and all this other type of goofiness, why are they using the art of manipulation by telling you to do certain things, which ultimately gets you caught up? Because they're dark magicians posing to be light magicians, because light magic and what most people consider light working and love and light and all this other type of stuff is inviting. And then when they got you in a situation where now they got you locked in, then they can start to use the dark magic or the dark arts that they can use. Some of those dark arts do include spell work, yes, but some of those dark arts do include manipulation. So these books like The Art of War and 48 Laws of Power was never meant for people excuse me, most of all, it was never meant for the mass consumption. Why? Because most people on earth do not know what it is that they are doing when it comes to manipulating. Because the first rule to being a successful manipulator is do not get caught. You have to learn to cover your tracks. Most people who think that they're so intelligent today actually are not very bright, because the things that they end up manipulating for, the intentions of why it is that they manipulate, actually are very short-sighted and all over the place. So it goes to show you how it is that most people should not actually be even trying to manipulate in the first place. Another reason why it is that I don't choose to manipulate is because of the fact that what it is I just said a few minutes ago. Because of the fact that I already know that most people on earth are manipulated already without their knowledge. Because I'm so good at manipulating, if I wanted to play that type of game, all I needed to do was to meet you and press a certain particular button, press your buttons and see which one does which and which one I want you to do. And like pressing a button from a machine, press that button and you will move that way because you've already been supplanted and programmed even without your own knowledge, because that's how subtle good manipulators are. You wouldn't even know it. What's the best way to learn the art? This is the reason why that if you are going to start learning manipulation, it's the best thing for you to do is to learn manipulation, not to use it all the time, because manipulation is only meant for life and death situations, because manipulation is war tactics. Not for you to use manipulation all of the time, but for you to read those books, 48 Laws of Power, The Art of War, for you to understand how you've been manipulated. So you can start to reverse engineer the manipulation so you can start to free yourselves up. Think about this. Why is it that one group of the population chooses to procreate with the worst type of people in the population, and the usual outcome, I'm not saying all the time, but the usual outcome is they end up being poor, when the natural progression of the species is to get, actually, believe it or not, to actually get richer as time goes on. So by the very definition, it means that if you are a person and you ended up poor based upon your decision makings of a partner, it means by definition you've been manipulated and you don't even know it. So why would I manipulate when most people are already manipulated enough? Most people don't even realize in actuality, because they're so terrible at it, and I can show and prove that they're terrible at it. They're so terrible at manipulation. Most people don't even really understand that they're actually causing more damage to themselves than they are the person that they're trying to manipulate. Pay attention to all the people who tried to manipulate me, for instance. Where are all of those people with all of their might? They're so smart. Some of these people can't even afford a bagel with cream cheese on it, but they're so smart. But with all of this so-called intelligence that they act like they have, why is it that in the long run they can't seem to win? You know why? Because remember what it is I said. Manipulation also has something to do with the end game, the long term. Manipulation is a temporary fix to a long term solution or a long term problem. You're only solving a problem for a temporary time. So all I need to do is understand that ultimately, when someone's trying to manipulate me, stay away from them. Don't manipulate back. And they cause their own self-destruction in the long run because they're too stupid to understand when to stop manipulating. So when I tell y'all, at some point, everybody must stop playing this manipulation game, I'm not asking. I'm telling y'all for your own uh, empowerment. Everybody must stop playing this game at some point.